and welcome to Her Stories by WeWork. Her Stories brings together the stories of incredible women across the country. We are so proud of having built a community of people who follow us for our story sessions, where we will be speaking to some of the most inspiring creators across the country. After success of season 1, we are thrilled to bring to you season 2 of Her Stories by WeWork on the occasion of International Women's Day, where we celebrate the journeys of eminent women leaders of not just today, but every single day. Over the next few days, we will talk to women across industries such as social media, business, and hospitality, and listen to how they have paved their way to the top with purpose, determination, and resolve. I am thrilled to welcome you all to the second season with one of the youngest celebrity chefs the country has seen, Pooja Dhingra, founder and CEO of Love 15 Patisserie. She is the undisputed macaron queen of India and the owner of one of India's most celebrated patisseries. Pooja has also been a part of Forbes Asia 30 Under 30, has written an award-winning book titled The Big Book of Treats that won the second place at the Gourmand World Cookbook Award. Pooja, we are so honored to have this opportunity to speak with you today. Let's get to know more about your journey. So Pooja, I'll start off with the very first question. Actually, this is my favorite question on the list. You have been baking since the age of 6, which I have no words. I just don't know what to say to that. It is remarkable. What inspired you to embark on this journey and this culinary expedition?
Wow, so it's almost going to be 30 years. That makes me feel really old. No, I mean, I always say this, that baking to me feels like, magic, because you take really simple ingredients and then, it transforms into something so wonderful. And I would say this often. And I think that's what really got to me when I was, the first time I made brownies when I was 6. And it was just this whole experience of seeing it come to life and then just seeing the joy that it, brought everyone around me. And I was like, oh, this is quite simple. Happiness is quite simple. So yeah. And then from there, I kept baking every weekend. I would, and at that time we didn't have the internet and all the recipes that we have available to us. So it was a lot of trial and error. I still remember peanut butter I made when I was 8 years old. It was horrific. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun journey.
Wow, you must be so proud. And I'm sure your parents were proud eating brownies made by a 6-year-old. It's fantastic. How did Love 15 come by, Pooja? You could have chosen to be a chef at a leading hotel, but you took the patisserie and the cafe route. We would love to understand what drove your choices.
So to be very honest and very transparent, actually, when I studied pastry in Paris, and when I moved back, this is almost 14 years ago, the pastry landscape in the country was very different than what it is today. So there actually weren't opportunities for me. I couldn't go and work in any hotel because I tried really hard. I applied to a few places, but the way the Indian system is set up, it was just difficult for me to kind of break into any of the hotel chains without having gone to their schools. And, it was a really complex mechanism. There were no standalone pastry shops back then. We only had, one. And so I was like, okay, if I want to do something and I had a vision of what I wanted to create and it didn't exist, so I knew that I had to do it myself.
Wow, you also mentioned that you were in Paris while the Indian landscape was not ready, and I'm glad it was not, because you wouldn't have had Love 15 otherwise. What about Paris? Did you evaluate opportunities in Paris while you were there?
Evaluate, meaning I wanted to spend the rest of my life there? Yes.
I'm sure.
For me, it was, even though, I left India when I was about 17, 18, and then I lived in Switzerland for 4 years. And just even in Switzerland, while I was studying hospitality, on the weekends, I was baking for my flatmates. And I thought I was, the shit, because I was making the best chocolate chip cookies, but I was working with really amazing ingredients, right? Like the best Swiss buttered chocolate. So anything I would do with it would be excellent. But then when I moved to Paris, even for me, it was quite a revelation in the fact to see the way pastry was treated. Because, growing up in Bombay, we used to have donuts, we used to have brownies, cheesecake. That was my mom used to make a lot of chocolate mousse and those kind of desserts at home. But actually going into pastry shops and seeing the way pastry was displayed, almost chefs were artists. And I think it was that to me, which was like, wow, why haven't I seen this in India? And that's when, the kind of idea for the 15 came in my head.
Amazing. And because you've been talking such yummy dishes, I'm going to come to macaroons. because I absolutely love them. So while we are all here to all the audience with the macaroon queen of India, we'd love to know how you brought the Parisian joy to the Indian consumers and what was the initial reaction, because it was not there, like you mentioned, and suddenly you have these beautiful delicacies out there for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about being so young and naive is that you think you can achieve everything. So for me, I was not like, I wasn't, today, if I have to launch a product, I approach it so differently. But back then, I just knew that I loved this product and I wanted more people to eat it. It was just with that intention. And I wanted people to try it and I wanted to talk about it because I loved it so much. And that's how it all started, really. Like the questions I was asking myself was, why don't I see macaroons in India? Is it because it's tricky to make? Is it because ingredients are not available? It's expensive. Will people buy it? So it was like, a lot of trial and error. I remember standing in a mall, with samples and getting people to taste it. And I just like, get feedback from people on what they thought of the product. And then I knew, actually, when my father visited me in France, my father is like, if he will say something is good, and he's a very picky eater, and he's, so if he says something is good, that means it's it will
Really
have
good.
market approval. Yeah. So yeah, it just went from there.
Amazing. My God, what a journey. And because you mentioned challenges, right, Pooja? If you go back and think about the one biggest challenge that you had to encounter while you were at that stage, and who was sort of standing by you and ensuring and guiding you, pushing you to ensure that you don't give up.
Correct. So I talk about the challenges quite a bit. I also feel that when I started, I was so young, so I thought all my challenges were because of my age and my lack of experience. But slowly, as the years went by, I realized that gender also played quite a big role in those challenges, right? People wanted to know who's funding the business, where the father is, where the husband is. All those questions always got asked. But I also feel that when you're so deep into what you're doing and really enjoying what you're building each day, you actually don't have a minute to spend on what's going on outside your little bubble, right? So I think I was in that bubble for so long that I didn't have time to look up and see what was happening. I was very lucky to have I am very lucky to have a very supportive family, and my parents always pushing me to do more. I still remember the first year I would come home and tell my dad, like, oh, today we made this much money. And he'd just be like, that's it? And he'd be like, that's what you got to do. You got to push. And then it was that almost as if having a belief in you and believing in you more than you actually believe in your own skills and abilities. I was lucky to have that support at home. And, they just let me be and do my thing.
I'm sure this is going to inspire so many people, especially women, Pooja, because the stuff that you're saying is very real. The problems that women face are very real. The questions back on family, who's your support system, all of those questions sort of come back at some stage or the other. Now that you are here, you are established, you're a strong entrepreneur. If you could go back and talk to the 20-year-old in the early 20s, Pooja, what is the one advice that you would give her?
I try to first chill. Like, it's okay. Don't be so stressed all the time. Everything will work out. Also, I just feel like, I kind of never gave myself enough credit for what I was doing and achieving. Like, it was just, I never took a minute to just be like, hey, you got this, and what you've done is great. I would do that. And very, very, very important, the one thing that I tell everyone, and the one thing I wish I'd done differently, is to really take charge of my finances. Because I feel that, when you start a business, and especially young girls, I feel like no one talks to women about money. No, like, if I grew up in a business family, but no one discussed what we should do with money, how we should save it, how we should invest it, why it's so important. And I think as a creative person, you almost feel like, oh, I shouldn't, talk about making money and what I should do with it. I feel like that's, the change that I've consciously brought in my life right now. And if I could go back and tell my younger self something, I would definitely be like, take charge of your finances yourself.
This is a brilliant, brilliant advice. And it's interesting, right? We are out there to make money. I know there is a dream sort of coming alive and there's a dream
Yeah.
coming true. And this whole piece is so critical. How did you manage going forward? And this is something for me to understand. Over the period of years, when you started realizing that this is an important missing piece, what were the
Yeah.
couple of things that you did to ensure that things were back in track and you had more control?
Also, I believe that the universe teaches me hard lessons when I'm not listening and not doing what I'm supposed to do. So I got my fingers burned very badly. I had someone who I deeply trusted with the finances who took advantage of it. I went through that whole journey. I think every business owner goes through it at some point or the other. Unfortunately, I had to go through it as well, and it was hell. And at that point, it was like a wake up call to be like, how could you be so stupid? And I think that as most women, we're like afraid to even ask questions because we think, oh, that's such a dumb question. But now I will ask anything to anyone. I'm like, if I don't understand it, I don't care. I'm going to say that I don't know it and try to learn and just be like, okay, now I know how to do this. So I was forced to learn.
Brilliant piece of learning there. And linked to that question, the other question that sort of comes to my mind is the three big challenges, or you name it the way you want, as a woman entrepreneur that we face, right? I'm assuming it's very different. Entrepreneurship itself is difficult. It's very challenging. Competition is real out there. There's so much happening. But as a woman entrepreneur, what are some of the areas that you personally thought are specific challenges to operating as a woman in this world?
Um, I really wish and do hope that a decade from now, we're all just entrepreneurs, and
Yes.
the tag of women is not there. So I feel like that has been challenging also, because everywhere you go, you are like uh, judged for your gender, asked about things because of your gender. And it's, I last year, someone said something about female chefs, and there was a lot of backlash. And why do we need to call it female chefs and not chefs? But the reality of the situation is that it is what it is right now, right? And we're trying to change status quo. But going back to your question, I feel for me, definitely the finance part of it, just trying to understand everything, trying to really get help with that was a challenge. This thing of, and I think this is not a gender thing, but I think it's an entrepreneurship thing, is if you're a solo founder, I feel like it gets really lonely and it feels very alone, because all the decision making is on your shoulders. You have to take the big risks, you have to take all the decisions, and after a while it kind of starts getting overwhelming when there's so much dependent on you. We have a team of almost 85, 90 people, and it's like, everyone's livelihoods depend on the decisions that you take, so it gets taxing sometimes. But yeah, I would just say put it down to these two.
Brilliant. And I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to come back to food, Pooja. And I
Yes.
know you are in this whole cafe and baking and all the yumminess that the people sort of ask for in life. What's your personal food philosophy? And what have you always dreamt of dishing out to consumers? And if it was not this, what you're doing at Low 15, what else would you be sort of doing in the food space?
I feel like that's such a great question, and I think that food for all of us, right, is memory. It connects you to people, to places. I can, I can trace my entire childhood by just closing my eyes and thinking of the food that I ate then, whether it was, the samosas at Gati Galaxy, or it was, like trips to my nani's house with gajar ka halwa. And it's food is memory, right? So I feel like my food philosophy is quite simple. It's to keep things as clean, as simple as possible. So in all our desserts, it's about that, maximum indulgence per bite that you can get for that moment when you're eating it. It's really great, and that's what I love to. When you have something really good and you're like, this hits my soul. I just like to create things that hit the soul. Like that's my food philosophy. So very simple. If I wasn't doing this, I don't know what else I would be doing. I tried to do law, which I quit. But definitely something with either writing about food or styling or shooting food. But definitely food would be a very important aspect of my life.
Because you spoke about writing, your cookbooks are very, very, very loved by people who are into this whole space of baking and are trying to be budding bakers at a home level or at a chef level. And they are a big guide. I think for everybody who's starting off, it's a very, very easy starting point. So after Can't Believe It's Eggless and Coming Home, are we expecting another lineup from you soon?
Yes. So just 3 days ago, I thought of the next couple of books. So it's in the pipeline already, and work will start on them soon.
How do you find the time? I mean, you're fully involved as an entrepreneur. You are writing. You are very active on social. You are on YouTube. You're teaching. How do you juggle all of this?
Um, you know what? I only do this. This is like 15 is my life. So I don't have anything else to focus on, which is great because all my energy is on this. But no, I joke. I feel like um, what people see is the culmination of a lot of years of work, right? So it may seem like, oh, they are new cookies and there's a new book, but it's taken years, to work towards it. So that's what one thing I will say is that it's always, it's misleading because you think everything is happening at the same time, but there's a lot of things that happen parallelly, and then sometimes they end up coming out together at the same time. So um, otherwise it's just planning your days well and just kind of figuring out what the targets for the year are, what your aims are, and then working towards them. So at any given point, like for this year I wanted to do season 3 of my podcast, there's another book, but I have the whole year to do it. It's not like I'm doing everything now. They'll all eventually come out at the same time, and then it'll feel like, what is she doing? But no, it's taken a lot of time to fit it together.
Actually brilliant, right? Because I think when the pandemic hit, there was a certain trouble that the entire nation went through. A lot of
Yeah.
industries struggled, suffered. Was the whole social piece intentional? Had you like felt the vibe that people will pick this on? And I don't think people have baked so much in their life ever. I think COVID taught everybody baking. I baked.
Everyone.
I'm a very poor baker. So from that point of view, the entire piece around Love 15 things so smartly curated, so consumer on pulse, right? How did you manage to do this so well?
Again, pushed into a corner. I didn't have any grand plans. I would like to say here and you sit here and say that it was all well thought of. No, we were just rolling with it. That I think when you're at a stage, so at the start of the pandemic, we had to make some hard decisions to keep the business going. Had to shut down half the business, and it was an awful time, right? It was really painful to shut something that you built from scratch for no reason of you couldn't control the reasons. It was beyond your comprehension. Like I don't think we'd ever, as people, expected to see this. But then I moped and I cried about it for about a month or 2 months, and then once that was done, it was a survival. So it was more like, okay, what can I do to make this work? It wasn't so much about. It was just one day to the next and just taking each day at a time. Yeah, the whole world started baking, which was amazing. And everyone was making banana bread because it was just so comforting. And I just saw opportunity there. Like I started, and the thing is that I love teaching, but I love a physical class because you really pick the energy of people and all of that. The interaction is amazing. But when I was like, okay, I can't do this physically, I have to do this online. And then suddenly I saw my class size from what used to be 12 can now be 200 people from across the world. Had people signing in from Canada, from Nigeria, from everywhere. And I was like, wow, there's potential here. There's true opportunity. So I just started finding all these little opportunities. I was like, okay, my friends are baking at home, but they are terrible and they don't know how to do this. What if I make a cake mix? And then the cake mix came up and the hot chocolate mix came out. And so it's just like being, a little bit reactive, seeing what's happening, and then, kind of figuring the way out.
Interesting. But this is another skill, right? I mean, from a person who's such a good chef to being so good at social. Have you also been upskilling separately whenever you had the sort of free time? Because this is a whole art being there on digital, promoting yourself on digital. How have you been constantly upskilling yourself in this space?
So I feel like for me, a lot of how I use social media is basically just storytelling. And I think that's, telling people what I've been up to, what's happening, at work. And for the longest time, it was only, I never really thought about it much. It was more like, this is how I'm building Love 15 and these are what my days are like. And then suddenly when the pandemic happened, I had to stop and really think of what is it that I want to build? What is the kind of communication I want going out? What is, have this huge community now, and how do I really help them in a way? And I always try to look internally and kind of think of where are my gaps? What do I want to do right now with my life? And for me, is a very big part of it. aspect, right? It could be anything. I'm constantly learning something new. And I just thought that, it would be great to get all these amazing, talented chefs together, learn something from them. And that's how my show Talk Pastry to Me, came to be. And I had the best time. And for the first time, I was like actually curating the content and, like learning how it works. And so, it's been a great journey for me as well. And I just had fun, so much fun doing it. And I think that's key, right? Like whatever you're building, whatever you're creating, to keep having fun while doing it.
And you mentioned while you were talking about this, Pooja, that there was a time when it was difficult, right? When going became difficult. And you also mentioned that there are over 80 people who work with you on Love 15. Was there a point in time where people questioned, and then how did you sort of manage emotions, motivation of employees, teams to ensure that everybody is motivated to come to work and continue doing a good job and this too shall pass in some sense?
In fact, I feel that the strength that I got from my team in that time was actually more than I could have expected from anybody else in my life. I think for the first time, I think we as a team, pre-COVID and post-COVID, post during COVID, because COVID is still on, guys, wear your mask. But I think we are a different team, and we went from that mode of like, just doing a job to really like, we got to save the ship. And I think once that mindset shift happens where you're so motivated and you almost become like this, sports team that's come together to really win, I think I saw that change. And we motivated each other. We set goals every month. And every month we were like, okay, we got to beat last month. We got to beat last month. What can we do? And I think it's been, for me as a leader as well, it's been a fascinating journey to kind of just see that growth in the team and see that passion. And, I was like, wow, why did we need a pandemic for all of us to start working like this?
Talking like this, yes,
Yeah.
so true. And on one side you had your family who's been a fantastic support. COVID got you really empowered with your team, and then we've been doing a little social media scan, and we figured that your biggest strength also comes from your friends. They happen to be a large, like a large cheerleader gang of sorts. The girl gang is how I'm seeing it on all your social pages. So do they also get to sort of try the first stuff that you curate, and what's your relationship like, and what kind of role do they really play in your life to motivate you and keep you going?
So I have, I'm still very close to all my friends from childhood, from college, from everywhere, and in my professional life as well. I've been very lucky to kind of make really strong and have really strong female friendships. I feel at the end of the day, no one understands you better because they're going through the exact same thing. So for me, it's almost like a safe space with the girls to be like, this is what I'm going through and this is how I feel. And it can be anything from I'm struggling at work with this, or I'm not feeling so good about this today, or I'm talking about boys today, or whatever it is in my head, right? And to just find a support system that understands you, that makes you feel like you're not alone. I think for me, having that support system really kind of, especially in COVID, to have really strong friendships, I feel that made me see me. It saw me through this phase and helped me get out of it.
And do they also get to try all your first curations?
Yeah. I mean, I get requests from everyone, whether it's my family or my friends. If someone will be like, I'm craving this, I want that. And it's actually because I would get a lot of my inspiration from travel before, but in the last 2 years, there hasn't been any travel. So I kind of use my friends as inspiration. I'm like, what are you craving today? What can I make? Okay. And so it's
That's
quite
such
good.
a high note to sort of end the entire conversation. I have a couple of questions from the audience, and these are very interesting ones. I'm going to sort of shoot them one by one. This one's from an ardent fan, and the person goes, Pooja, I'm a really big fan. Your patisserie has spread endless sweetness and joy amongst Mumbai folks. However, since I'm in Delhi, our city looks forward to receiving our share of same joy. Any plans to opening up shop in Delhi?
So we do ship most of our products online to Delhi. Macaroon shipping is also going to start next month, so that will be great. Physical stores is something that was on the plan pre-COVID. Post-COVID, things have changed a little bit, but fingers crossed. I hope it happens. Pray.
Yeah,
Visual,
I'm
let's
hoping
visualize.
so too, because we all keep traveling to Delhi and we want to have the same experience there that we have in Bombay. The second one is from a budding home baker. We've spoken about all of these people who've been baking at home, and she's completely inspired by your journey. And she wants a couple of tips. What are some of the tips that you would like to share with all the budding home bakers?
Be patient, very important. You see, like I said, you see a lot of success online of different people, but you have to understand that it takes a lot of time. Love 15 is going to be 12 years old. So it's taken a lot of time and effort to build. So be patient, and be consistent. I think that, it's very easy to get enamored by this job, but at the end of the day, it is a hard, being in the kitchen is hard. Doing something, uh, making one cake one day is different than making the same cake every single day and having it turn out to be the exact same, is where the challenges lie, and then doing it year after year after year after year. So yeah, just be patient and be consistent, and yeah, if you're really passionate about it, you know you'll see the results that you wish to see.
This patience piece is so true, because I think out of the entire cooking piece, the one perfect piece is baking. You have to get it right. So it can be quite easily demotivating for a lot of home bakers if the first cake burns or doesn't come out of the pan. So I think it's a fabulous tip for everybody. Just keep trying. The next question is, hey Pooja, you've been into baking since a very, very young age. And here comes a tricky one for you, Pooja. My daughter is an ardent fan. Could you share a quick mug of cupcake recipe that she could try at home?
So I have a book called Coming Home that has an amazing mud cake recipe. You should get it. Such
Definitely. So that's going to be the tip. All right, super. And I think we are almost towards the end, Pooja. So one of the last questions from the audience is, as a young entrepreneur, you've been so inspiring for a lot of bakers, chefs. Who has been your inspiration?
Oh, I have so many, as chefs, there are many French chefs that I look up to, Pierre Hermé being one of my biggest, inspirations. And then back home, there's just so many women doing such amazing things that I really, admire. And I think at the end of the day, it's my mom who's my biggest like motivator, inspiration, and pushes me. So yeah, and
Fantastic.
Oprah.
And Oprah. Oh, wow. I think she's an inspiration to a lot of women out there.
Putting it out there in the universe that we will meet and drink martinis together.
My God, amazing. That just sounds divine. Let me put it that way. So, Pooja, one question on the line of the packaged goods that you launched. What was the thinking behind that, and how is that sort of doing? And within the line, what's working the best for you?
Yeah. Oh God. So 4 years ago, we kind of decided that, anytime anyone would ask me what your plans for Love 15 are, I would just smile and I would say world domination without really knowing what that meant. But I just knew that I wanted Love 15 to be everywhere, right? And the more I thought about it, um, just scaling a fresh food business is very challenging. It has its own sort of, problems in terms of scaling it. So when I say world domination and I would say scale, automatically it would be like something that would be packaged that you could
Yeah.
find in supermarkets across the country, in stores across the country. And so then we started building a whole product portfolio. And I think before the pandemic, at least 2 years, I started working on a hot chocolate mix and on a cookies and dip keys. And I was always like, this is not ready yet, and this is not good enough, and this is, it's so challenging because I had to unlearn everything that I knew as a chef and
Yes.
then learn everything again to like what would work on a retail shelf, everything from product to, I didn't want to add any preservatives, I wanted it to be as clean ingredients as possible. So figuring that out, food science is a completely different ball game. So working closely with food scientists to see how all of that would work. So for me it was like a whole journey within. And then when lockdown happened, we just accelerated everything because I was like, okay, the packaging doesn't have to be the packaging, let's just get it out there, and then let's see how people react to it. And it really like goes back to like done is better than perfect, because and then slowly we kind of started changing things, and now we're in the direction of the packaging that we wanted to see. But I got to test the market. I got to see what people's reactions were to the products, which touch wood have been good. And yeah, we just launched our cookies like 3 weeks ago, and we did something absolutely crazy,
Wow.
which goes back to the power of community. And you were asking about social media. So I think that that's one thing that I've really realized is how to harness the power of that community that you built, right? So we have about 15,000 people that are part of a taste club that we run. And
Amazing.
this is actually the taste club that gets first, they get first dibs on everything. So everything that we
Wow.
make, we send it out to them, they sample it, they give us their feedback, because otherwise it's just very difficult to gauge how a product will perform. And you're like, I love this, I made it, it's great.
Correct.
And you're like, how will someone outside of this, this company think of it? So for our cookie launch, we actually got 1,500 people. We send them the cookies.
Wow.
They launched it for us. Everyone had a promo code. I think it was like so. My
Amazing.
phone was beeping. Like I took a video of my phone. I thought it was going to explode because my Instagram notifications were going like one a second, and I was like really feeling anxiety because I was like, I can't have this beeping so much. But it was great, and yeah, now we're selling them all these products on our website, and I'm hoping to that we hit retail stores next month. And that's been another whole like learning journey for me because it's a whole new piece.
But this is such fantastic validation. I love the idea of passing on the decision making to somebody else and validating products, because then it is consumer validated and it can't be better than that. So
Yeah.
all of these guys are everywhere, or they are like located in a location?
All across India,
Wow.
all super enthusiastic, fully like, love the brand. They love like, they've given us detailed feedback on everything that we send out to them. And it's been really, really, heartwarming to see, like when I put out the first newsletter and send it to them, like the reactions that we were getting, I was like, okay, we built something that's really special.
Pooja, now that you have sort of, unlocked the secret on this one, don't be surprised if you start getting notifications every second when people want to be part of this amazing community, because they do get the first dibs on
Yeah.
all your questions. So it's
Yeah.
going to be exciting. Was there anything else that you loved about Paris? Because Paris also has art, culture, architecture, a lot of things. And if you had to go back, what is the one thing that you would go back for?
Oh, you're making me miss Paris a lot by asking. I haven't been in 2.5 years and my heart breaks. I feel for me, I lived there when I was 20, 21. I
Yeah.
was quite a sheltered child in India, and then I had to go and, kind of be by myself. And I think the reason why Paris is so special to me is because I kind of discovered who I really was there without I didn't have to fit in a box. I didn't have to be any labels. I could just be me. And for me, that holds a very special place. So yes, the food is great, the wine is great, and I mean, just walking around Paris is just happiness to me. But for me, it's a special connection because I discovered myself there, and I love going back because every time I go back, I discover new things about the city. About I have a whole lot of friends that are still there, and just the innovation in food and everything that they're doing, like it really makes you like, I have so much to learn, I have so much to achieve, and it's great to feel like that.
It's a very, very inspiring journey, Pooja. But throughout the entire conversation, you've had highs and lows and highs and lows. But I'm sure there was one point when you knew that now we are here to stay. So we've seen everything, but now there's
I
no going
thought that when we turned 10 2 years ago, and then the pandemic hit, so I didn't
back.
think anything anymore. I was like 10 years older, 15, happy birthday, yay. And then it was like, oh shit, the world's shutting down. So I don't think I'll ever feel like that ever again.
Well, I really hope you guys do, because I think the stuff that you guys are doing out there is just making people so happy with all the lovely products. And by going retail, you have addressed the concerns of people not having a Love 15 close by. So I think it's a big kudos to the entire team at Love 15, and Pooja, your commitment and bringing the whole French patisserie to India. I couldn't have been more inspired. This has been a fantastic conversation for me. And I'm sure all the listeners and all the audiences who will sort of come across this episode will enjoy and take inspiration from your journey. Pooja, thank you so much from all our heart and the entire team at WeWork.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.